what's up you guys, this is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on Doing It Raw, it's all about getting your hands on them balls with a lot less hassle when we playtest the Spectres of the Rail Update 2.2 Nekros Rework. Okay, so this is definitely an interesting update to say the least. A lot of small tweaks were made that to some degree increase the efficiency of an ability, yet in a different aspect decrease the efficiency of that same ability. Other abilities used to require certain mods, now they're not required, but they still are kinda required. The whole thing is pretty odd, but also good, maybe? Now, let's start off with Nekros' Desecrate. It's actually been turned into a toggle which only consumes energy, or health if you're using Despoil, when a dead body is around. Now, in its old form, it consumed 50 energy per cast, and would desecrate an unlimited amount of bodies within range. With Natural Talent equipped, you'd actually be able to desecrate the same bodies approximately 3 times. Now, the new version costs 10 energy, or health, per body desecrated, and will only affect that same body once. Of course, just like Desecrate always has, if you manage to slice bodies in half, it will still desecrate both segments. Now, do note that the health orb drop rate has been reduced. However, if I'm gonna be honest with you, it feels like you're only losing out on about 10 to 20% of how many used to drop. And just as long as you're staying within range of your kills, trust me, you will be rolling in those balls. So basically, the updated version has a far more specific energy cost per trigger, is a bit more limiting as to how many times you can desecrate the same body, but you can't set it and forget it, knowing that you'll never miss a corpse and not have to deal with the carpal tunnel that came with the original version. Personally, I love it, because I can't always be bothered to desecrate things in the heat of battle, and it opens up some very interesting build paths for our Bone Daddy. The next change with Nekros is the fact that Shadows of the Dead is no longer duration based, except for the fact that it still kind of is. Now, instead of having a timer, your shadows slowly lose a percentage of their health every second until they die. This is governed by the health decay stat in the abilities panel, and can be decreased by, guess what? That's right, duration mods! Originally unmodded, Nekros' shadows lasted for 30 seconds. Now unmodded, they last for 33 seconds, but with health decay. So while it's not necessary to mod for duration, if you don't want your shadows to suffer from a 3% health rate every second, you're gonna want to toss some duration in to offset it. They also removed the need to add in power strength, as the number of shadows you have are always 7, and no longer scale with that stat. However, the health, shield, and damage multipliers do scale with it, so you'll still want to put in at least a little power strength. And in all fairness, the damage multiplier went from 1.5 at its base to 2.5, while the health and shield modifiers have literally doubled from the original value. Now, recasting Shadows of the Dead while you currently have shadows up will do several things. First off, it will fully heal all shadows that are active. In fact, if you've got a full squad of 7, the animation time is cut down greatly. Secondly, if you have any shadows that are over 30 meters away from you, they will be teleported within range, which is super handy and probably one of my favorite aspects of this ability. And lastly, if any of your shadows have fallen, recasting it will replace those shadows with the strongest enemies you killed recently. Now, I decided to playtest this a little by doing the following. I picked 2 enemies and selected a quantity of 7 each. Then I went and killed them all and cast Shadows of the Dead. This way the game would pick out a full squad of whichever enemy they deemed to be the toughest. Now, here is what I found. In the Grineer faction, the game believes heavy gunners to be the most powerful, followed by bombards, and in 3rd place came the napalms. Out of curiosity, I did check, but for some reason they classified manic bombards as less effective than napalms. I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, DE. Now, the Corpus are a bit different because they manufacture groups of similar things. So the most powerful group, of course, is the Bursas, followed by the Corpus Tech and the Nullifier Crewmen. Now, I was actually pretty surprised to find that the Comba and the Scrambus were considered less powerful than the Corpus Tech. But then again, maybe they're really not that powerful, they're just extremely annoying. Now, interestingly enough, when I went and tried this on both the Infested and the Corrupted, the results were always a bit jumbled. So when it came to the Infested, the top performers, in no specific order, were the Boilers, Ancient Healers, and Ancient Disruptors. To be completely honest with you, I'm pretty sure I haven't completed the scans for the standard Juggernaut, but I'm assuming that those would probably lead that pack. As for the Corrupted, when you put Bombard versus Gunner, Bombard would win. But when you put Bombard against Ancient, Ancient would win. And when you put Ancient against Heavy Gunner would win. Regardless, those are your top 3, and the Nullifiers come after all of that hot mess. So basically, the updated version of Shadows of the Dead isn't too far from its original. While its max number of shadows has been reduced, the modifiers for it are much more potent. And while the duration basically stays the same, with the added downside of decay, you now get better reinforcements and are able to hold onto them via full heals. Plus, you can teleport them to you when needed. So all in all, way better quality of life. Now, for those of you using Shadows of the Dead, do be aware that the mod now scales with power strength where it didn't before. If you want to check out its efficacy with your current build, keep an eye on your buff bar near the top right corner, and you should see a percentage with how much damage reduction you currently have. If it's not as high as you'd like, I'd suggest taking a look into the health conversion mod from Samaris. Now, all in all, I'm actually quite liking the changes. A majority of it is pretty much quality of life, which was definitely lacking from the previous incarnation, and makes him a bit less of a pain to use. While yes, he did lose power in certain aspects, he also gained power in others, as well as a shit ton of playability. So overall, I feel like it's a pretty successful retuning just in time for his prime variant. Because when you're going for the gold, it's all about getting your hands on the best bodies you can find. So thank you all for watching another episode of Doing It Raw. Be sure to check out my latest episode of Dress to Kill where I cover the Nova Asari skin, and keep an eye out for my upcoming playtest that covers every aspect of body count and blood rush. Now don't forget to do all the things that I asked you to do at the end of every one of these, and as always, stay educated as fuck. Now, I can't confirm if it actually works, but holy shit, the Adarza's crit buff putting Shadows of the Dead to work. Now that is what we call pussy whipped.